Hello everybody, my name is Jelena Cook. In this video I'm still playing with my Open Acrylics. Not just these ones, I do have a drawer full. But they're Open Acrylics from Golden, and they're a slow drying acrylic. It's really good for me. This is my third painting with them and I really enjoyed myself. I do have a video of this teeny tiny painting, and where I was actually laughed at myself as well doing it. So if you haven't seen that video already, go and have a look. So this is the size of the canvas. Have a closer look at that. I really enjoy painting this. I've painted the sides as well. I've even signed it. This is a reference that I picked myself and I thought it was great fun. So I thought I would show my process and how I did that. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get on with the video. So as I just mentioned about the reference photo, I actually took the photo myself, and I'll tell you a story about this painting and why I chose to paint it. But first, I'll tell you the thought process, how I created it. And as you can see, I didn't start off with a drawing. I prefer to start with mapping out the largest shapes with a light wash of the paint. Just gives me an idea of where I would like to have everything. Yeah, I've been using this same process with my mini gouache paintings as well. I don't know, maybe this is just how I prefer to do things. I don't know if I'm always going to paint like this without a drawing, but I guess I'll have to see. I'm placing my tree trunks, still using thin down paint, just so I can place them where I want them to be. And this tree that I'm painting right now, that's in the foreground. Sometimes I kept thinking while I was painting this that I should have probably just left that out, but it's there now. Live and learn, live and learn. Because this is still a new medium for me, acrylics, I'm going in with the same thought process and technique as if I was painting with my gouache. I think it went quite well using that technique, so I'll probably continue that way. What I mean about the technique is I start off with the lightest wash, do all the drawing that you can see I'm doing, and as I'm more confident of everything where it's placed, then I can start working thicker on the top. And then the final details are even thicker paint. So now I'm happy where everything is placed. Now this is the next layer where the paint is just that slightly thicker. So I'm working on this middle section. These are the bushes, and I like to use this stippling technique where you just put the brush into the paint where it's not too wet and you're just dabbing it onto the canvas. It just gives it this effect. And I do like to use a stippling technique quite a lot on bushes and trees. It's just what I like to use. So while you're watching me carry on painting, I thought I would tell you the story of why did I choose to paint this. So I was on my lunch break from work just so I can stretch my legs, and I do this every day because I do work in an office. I work in accounting practice, so I just need to rest my eyes and stretch my legs. And I will do this walk in all weathers. So if it's raining, I'm going to have an umbrella with me. And part of my walk is walking across this park nearby. and there are loads of very tall trees over there and benches to sit on, and there's a play area over there for children, and it is quite nice. It's away from the traffic and there's no noise. You can hear the birds. Now it's spring, and on this particular day it was sunny and the light was showing through the trees, and you'd got this dappled light all over the place. And for me, I just think it's gorgeous. And it's a bit of a, well, it's not rare, but in the UK we mostly have just grey skies. So catching a nice photo when you can see the sun is out and all the dappled light. So I was walking by and saw this old gentleman sitting on one of the benches alone. And as I stood there and looked at the scenery, my mind started to wander. I wonder, what was he thinking about that very moment? And in my mind, I started creating this little story in my head and sort of made it up. So what I did, I took a few photos of what I was looking at in different angles, and then when I went back to work, I quickly wrote some notes down of what I was thinking of at that point. And then later on, when I was creating the piece, I decided to write a little story of what I thought of the scenery and what was going through my mind at that time. So if you watch to the end of the video, I will read out the short story that I created. Okay, so back to the painting process. You can see that I'm still using that stippling technique, but I'm using a smaller brush, and the bristles are really stiff, and the bristles are actually quite messed up really, which is, well, it's good for this sort of technique. And I like to go in with the medium colour first, and then I'll go in with the light greens and then the darker greens, just to give it the depth. But what I'd like to have, just in the lower part, in the bush area, just to put some really bright greens in it, as if they're glowing as well. I am following my reference photo that I took, but I'm not copying it identical. I mean, can you just imagine me trying to do every little leaf in its little place? No. So I'm going to start painting on the foreground now. This is where all the dappled light is. And I just need to put some sort of mid-tone in first. And I thought I'd give you a different angle of the video, watching me doing what I'm doing right now. And I'm not too worried about blocking this section like in a smooth colour. I just wanted it to look, well, a bit rough, because it got some old autumn leaves down there, little bits of patches of grass coming in, dappled light everywhere. So I was just roughing it up in there, if you know what I mean. Giving you a smile, you see. So now I'm painting the sides, but I'm not going to be painting any details. So where the trees are, I'm just going to paint dark green. And then where like the tree trunks are, it's going to be like a dark brown. And as you can already see, the bottom bit on that side is the same colour as the foreground. If you're enjoying this video so far, I would love if you could click on the thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. It will help my channel grow. So I'm going back to the drawing stage, well, drawing with paint. I'm doing it in thin layers, and I'm painting the two benches. And also in the foreground, where I'm painting in all the areas of dappled light and dark areas, just so I have an idea of placement. So same here with this foreground. I was only using my photo as an idea. I was not copying all of where the dappled light was. I was just making it up using artistic license, as they say. I'm still enjoying the process. It was like nearly coming to an end, but I really wanted to get all the scenery done before I paint the old gentleman on there. And now I've finished with all the washes and the placements, I'm going in with slightly more opaque colours, but it's the opaque colour of the foreground that I use. I just lightened it up a bit with a different colour. This foreground, it does look like it's a bit messy. I was actually getting a bit worried if I was actually going to pull it off, but I'm going to carry on. Well, I'm going to have to, because I do like the rest of the painting, so I need to make sure that it works. And I'm just going to put all the colours that I see, so I'm putting the little grassy areas that I see. And really, in the end, I kept going on and on with it, and it did actually turn out the way I wanted it. So it's all about patience, keep going on, get past the ugly stage, and you will get there in the end. I used this lovely reddish brown where it was just old scattered autumn leaves that were almost rotted away, and it was quite nice because it gave it just that little touch of a different colour in there, because everything was just green and brown. What I'm currently working on right now is just darken up those darkest areas to give it the depth before I start putting the really bright colours on. And then once you start putting those really bright highlight colours on, it really does make a difference. And I wanted to have all this section just to make it look like it's a little bit glowy, which is why I used some bright greens as well as the dappled light colour in there as well. So now I'm focusing on the benches and defining the shape of them. I'm going to put some dark lines in there because that's the green in between there was really dark, and I'm going to darken up the brown section, but where the gentleman sits I've left that with the light wash underneath, because there's no point in me darkening it up and then trying to paint the old gentleman on there, because I didn't want that to show through. And then I got some really light colour that I've got here. It's like a really light lilac, but you can't see it at the moment because the benches were old and withered. You could actually see this like purplish colour come through, and I thought it was quite pretty, and so I made sure I put that in my painting because it makes it look more interesting. And I blended the purple section out with like a dark purple, and then I put like a mid purple just a little bit over the top of the light, just so it sort of blends in. Now that foreground has just dried just a teeny tiny bit, I wanted to make sure that I've got the glow effect. So now I've got almost white colour, but it's not completely white, just going on the dappled light, but not covering the whole of it, just little bits of spots here and there. And I think it worked really, really well. I was really happy. I was just had to make sure I didn't get too carried away, because otherwise it's just going to kill the effect, I think. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think about the painting that I created, knowing that I haven't really used acrylics that much. If you've got any tips for me that you think that I could use on my next painting, I would really appreciate that. So thank you in advance. So I thought while I was doing all these small details, I might as well complete the whole area, not just the foreground, but just to see what else I could try and get the glow effect on. I do change colour when I get to the bushes where I just want some of it to glow where the foreground is. And while I was finishing it off, I was sort of, yeah, I'm going to do the man soon. And I looked to my right and I thought, oh, I haven't done that tree yet. It's just sitting there in the way. I thought, what am I going to do? And I thought, okay, I'll decide to, let's just make it a darker colour. So now I'm going to start on this tree. And I thought maybe I could have just painted over it. Do I need it there? I just couldn't decide what to do with it. So I decided to keep it there because it is part of the foreground. Started playing with some dappled light on the tree as well, but I didn't want the focus to be on that side tree. I wanted it to be in the middle. And so I did change my mind later on about this. I put this light in, you can see, and then I did sort of darkened it up again. I was just playing with it. I needed to try and make this tree a little bit invisible but not completely disappear. So I was playing with it. I did edit some out where I was just rubbing some of the paint back off again. But you know, you have to play and figure things out. There's always something in a painting that is difficult and you're unsure what to do about it. So here I am, I'm starting to put some dappled light on it. I'm trying to sort of blend it into the darker areas to try and make it not too focal point. And I was just like, no, this is not working. I don't like it. So I changed my mind, left that there for a minute and got out the bright green paint and just started to put some more of that glowy effect in areas that I thought would look good. And I got a bit carried away with it, but not too much. But I was really enjoying how it was turning out. I was thinking to myself, I'll have a think about what I'm going to do with that tree, but let's just put some more of this brights in while I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get this tree to play right in the foreground here. Make sure that the light effects around it works well. And then what I decided to do, and completely made it up, and it's not in my reference photo at all, is paint some vines on it, because over at the park a lot of the trees do have some of the vines climbing up at the trunk of the tree and right up through to the branches as well. So I thought, well, I will do that for this one, and I thought that weren't too bad. Painting all those little leaves though, so as I always do, I start off with the mid colour, just get the leaves in the placements as I say, and then once I'm happy with all the placements, I will go in with a darker green and lighter green just to give them a little bit of so they look like leaves. Otherwise it looks like a cartoon at the moment. And I was thinking about that as well. It's just like, no, it's looking like a cartoon. It doesn't mix in with the rest of the painting. But I do resolve it in the end, and I do become happy about it. So it's not really a loss. I quite like the shading that I did on the tree as well, so it didn't look too flat. Where I've got some darks and lights, so you can see that it is actually a tree and not just a stick or something. I thought I'd show a close-up shot while I'm painting it, because in my art studio I have this huge light, but it was really reflecting badly on the painting. It was just making the painting a little bit too glowy. Not that glow that I was going for, but the light was just reflecting off it and you can't really see it very well. And I didn't know what to do about that. So now the tree is starting to blend in with the rest of the painting. It did take a while for me to paint on these little tiny leaves. I wanted some a little bit of dappled light on the leaves, but as it was going to the edge of the painting, I made a little bit more darker. So this is me thinking, I want to paint that man now. How am I going to do it? I wasn't confident enough to paint him straight on there. So I decided to get a piece of tracing paper out, draw the bench like I am, and then draw the man on there. Because if I went straight in with the paint, I didn't want to mess up all the detail I did. So me saying, well, I haven't done any drawing, well, I am now. So I'm just sketching him out because I want to get him the right size and the position that he was sitting in. It just gives me, and I drew the bench there so the paper, if the tracing paper moves, I can place it back on there again. I thought it was a good idea actually. But it was a bit difficult trying to draw at this angle on top of a canvas. I was worried about the pencil, destroying the canvas behind, and tracing paper falls on the floor. So what I did is I sat up a table, drew the man while I was sitting at the table, but I didn't video record that actually. And then I'm going to use Trace Down, which is like carbon paper but it's white, and I've put it under the tracing paper. As you can see, the tracing paper I used sticky tape to keep it in place, so then I can trace my little man that I just drew in the right place at the right size, and it worked. Because I use this white carbon paper when I do actually have line drawing when I'm doing my pet portraits with my pastels. See, look at that. I thought that was really good. It's just an impression of a person sitting there. I'm not going to do like little tiny details or anything like that. But I think that worked really well. So what I need to do now is take some of that white off because it's too thick. So this is a kneadable razor, and I'm just going to dab all over it so it looks like a ghost. Just want to shape that shoulder a bit because it was a bit out of order. So just, lightening these white areas up, because if I paint over it, I don't want the white sticking out on the sides like a halo. But I was a bit excited because I'm like, this is the last part of the painting, is painting the man on there. And you can imagine all those details that you can see through the man, especially where the bushes are. If I'd got it wrong, I don't think I'd be very happy with myself. So that's why I chickened out and just do the little line drawing. So I'm painting his jeans now. And even with something really small like this, painting this little gentleman, I still use the same process. I'm blocking in the main colours, and then I will go on top of those colours and start putting in some details. So at the moment his jeans look rather flat, but it won't stay that way. I just need to define where the shadows and everything are, paint his little tiny shoes. I was playing around painting his jeans for a little while because I was trying to figure out how I'm going to get them to look like jeans. I was struggling with getting the colour right as well, and I was like, okay, don't stress about it, let's just get the shadows in, the highlights in those areas, and then I'll figure it out in a couple of minutes. So started blocking in his top section here. I thought, let's just get him in instead of just concentrating on his bottom half. Let's get him all in there. So this colour is like a dark purple. I had to make sure I still got rid of that white bit that I'd painted in though, you know, the line drawing. Get his little baby hands in there. They weren't really they weren't holding anything, they were just sort of placed on his legs. And his little itty bitty face, look, there you go. And I will paint some shadows on his face. And then his white sun hat that he was wearing. So he's all blocked in. And then I will go in and start making him look more like a person instead of a cartoon. There's always an ugly stage on everything that you paint. So, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I will read out the little tiny story that I created while you carry on watching me finish painting this man. An old gentleman sits alone on a weathered park bench, his shoulders slightly rounded as he looks down at his hands, as if they're holding a memory rather than anything solid. Behind him, 4 slim trees lean subtly in his direction, their trunks angled like quiet companions, drawn towards his stillness. Sunlight flickers through the sparse leaves, breaking into soft patches of gold that dapple the ground in front of him, glowing warmly against the muted earth. The light seemed to pause there, eliminating the space before him while leaving his face in gentle shadow, as though the moment itself was waiting for him to look up. So that was my little story, and that's what I saw, and I just had to capture that moment and paint it and write this little story. I hope you enjoyed it. You have to let me know what you think. I was trying to figure out what I could name the painting. I was thinking about where the light pauses. If you have any other ideas what maybe I could call this painting, to let me know in the comments. So as I'm just finishing off this painting, I just needed to finish the bench that he was sitting on, painting in the little dark leaves around it, just some finishing touches. Even his little black shoes. So I'm going to zoom out so you can see the whole painting. Still wasn't happy with that tree, so I'm using the stipple technique again just to blend those leaves into the tree a little bit, so I was much more happier with it. So I appreciate you watching to the end, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.